Hey everyone, welcome and thanks for coming back to my social worker profile. I'm Aria. I'm so excited to continue this journey with you. I think I'll tell you a bit more about myself, my hobbies, areas of social work that interest me, and my social work relevant experience. I enjoy reading fantasy novels and cozy mysteries. I've been a professional photographer for years and enjoy taking artistic and unique photos. But my absolute favorite thing to do is to spend time with my kids, who are 12, 15, and 30. Areas of social work that interest me include working with Indigenous children, abused women, working as an advocate, or dealing with race relations. I believe that social work related experience can come in many forms. Have you ever been a bartender or worked retail? Then you've probably gained some of the skills that you need to be a social worker. We gain life skills like dealing with stress, learning to work with colorful personalities, and patience from numerous sources. For 5 years, I was the director of food ministries at St. Matthew's United Church in Belleville, Ontario. I supervised a volunteer crew of 15 people and ran a food bank and a meal program. I also organized and ran fundraisers for our programs. Part of my job was to secure donations of food, toiletries, and household goods for our client base of 120 people. I also sourced and trained volunteers. I loved that part of my life. It was so rewarding to actually be able to make a difference. I also have years of experience working with children. I ran a daycare for 15 years. I love to help people. It's my goal to make a positive difference. Studying social work will help me be the difference I want to see in the world. This module had some great lectures and awesome videos. I was really attracted to the micro-theories and practice lectures by Ellen Perot. I finally understand cognitive behavior therapy. The lecture on defense mechanisms was really eye-opening. I gotta say, I'm guilty of using some of those myself. I found learning about the 3 areas of direct social work practice very interesting. The in-depth exploration of the 4 stages of direct social work practice: intake, assessment and planning, intervention, evaluation and termination, was probably one of the more informative things I've learned so far in this class. I feel these are techniques I'd use often as a social worker. I was intrigued that group social work wasn't considered a practice until 1930. I liked learning about the stages of group development: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. I learned a lot about social work with communities, such as locality, the focus on the neighborhood issues, with a wide number of participants and consensus. I learned about social planning, which is the expert-driven approach. And it's not so much about changing society, but more about meeting the immediate needs. I learned about social action, or the activist approach, which involves organizing marginalized people and taking them from the feeling of helplessness to the feeling of decision-making. We studied child welfare in Canada. I found it really concerning that there is no centralized Canadian child welfare agency. Rather, it is left to the different provincial and territorial laws and regulations. Child welfare workers work in a variety of different areas: child and family investigation, family support, child placement, foster care, adoption, and guardianship, among others. They provide in-home services, such as helping to live in harmony, and counseling, parenting supports, and family education services. Child and youth social workers also help with out-of-home services. When a home is unstable, or there is a require for foster care, kinship care, residential care, reunification, or adult transition programs. Different child welfare practices are emerging, such as the risk assessment models, which are used to estimate the likelihood that a child will be maltreated based on an examination of pertinent data. There are collaborative approaches to child protection, which are give-and-take partnerships between clients and social workers, and the establishment of a relation of equality. I learned about the best interest approach versus the least restrictive approach. These two approaches mean whether the protection of a well-being of a child is put above all else, or if the course of action could cause the least disruption or change for a child. We learned more about First Nations children and the history of the 60s scoop. Today, Indigenous children make up 15% of the population, yet 40% of the foster children in care. And some reasons for this may be housing, substance abuse, and poverty. We learned about healthcare in Canada, public versus private healthcare, the universality of private healthcare, comprehensiveness, and contracting out the management. We also studied the globalization of social work, including the Global South, which we used to call the Third World, climate change, sustainable development, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We learned about the 3 types of rights: liberty, equality, and fraternity. I look forward to learning and growing more with all of you. See you next module.